What's up, everyone? Shane Larson here, also known as the Game Time Guru, and I'm coming at you with a different topic tonight. It's my book review night. Book review night, right? What the heck? So for those of you guys who don't know, I like to do a book review every time I read a book because it is in regards to something sports related, right? I've done a book review for Tyson Fury's book, Behind the Mask, when I read that. And I'm doing a book review in honor of my guest coming on the show on Friday. His name is Trevor Moawad. Okay. Trevor Moawad is the author of this book. This book is the reason I was encouraged to actually reach out to him and have him on my show. Phenomenal book. Couldn't have come at a better time in my life. I'll tell you all about it right now. Also, if you guys want to hear my interview with Trevor, make sure to subscribe to my podcast. It's free. Go subscribe to the Game Time Guru podcast. Episode launches on Friday. Okay. So the book is called It Takes What It Takes: How to Think Neutrally and Gain Control of Your Life. The premise is all on thinking neutrally, neutral thinking, which is a little bit foreign to most of us who are programmed to think positively, right? We always are told think positive, glass is half full, always focusing on the positive, positive, positive. His whole idea is to think neutrally, which is not negative. Both of those thought processes of thinking neutrally and thinking positively share the same idea of get negativity out the window. So he does kind of touch base on that earlier on in the book, talking about quit verbalizing your negative thoughts, right? If you think negatively, it's always going to be negative. There's always a bad outcome. So the thing is, you can always think positive, and it doesn't always end up positive, but at least when you think negative, you know it's always going to be negative. So it's okay to have negative thoughts, but stop verbalizing them. And one thing I took out of that chapter, and I'll read it to you in my notes. So when I read books, I take immense amounts of notes so that I can have them written down, and I go over those. It helps me with my comprehension of those books. So he specifically talks about Pistol Pete Maravich, right? Pete Maravich was quoted one time saying, "I don't want to play 10 years and die of a heart attack at age 40. Go Google what happened to Pistol Pete Maravich in his life and his career. Bill Buckner said, the nightmare is that you'll let the game-winning ball go through your legs. Go Google what happened to Bill Buckner. Sports fans know what I'm talking about. Stop verbalizing your negative thoughts. Immediately after I read that chapter, I started implementing that as much as I could in my life. Now, we're already programmed. Like when you're having a bad day, you'll say it out loud or this or that. There's a lot of he talks about the programs like Alabama where their coaches do not allow those players to speak out loud their negative thoughts. Like they just don't. And then you start doing that more and more and more, and you get that ingrained in your culture and your system. Good things can happen from it because you get that out of the air and out of the open. It's okay to have a negative thought enter your mind. That's natural, but to verbalize it is a completely different thing because then you're bringing that to the atmosphere, and there's a whole psychological impact when you verbalize your negative thoughts. There's another really cool part of this book that I actually talk about in the interview, and I'll ask that you guys listen to the interview so you can hear more about it, but it's in regards to a negativity experiment that he did. It was basically the exact same thing as what Super Size Me was all about. Right? When the guy was eating McDonald's every single day. But this is with negativity consumption of media, right? And you'll see why he did this negativity experiment and how long it lasted before he actually broke down, had basically a mental breakdown when he was consuming negative content. And what he talks about, we're talking country music, national news, metal music, like hard metal music, for just a little bit each day. It's not like he was spending his whole day listening to this. It's actually what most of us already do without even thinking about it. But the impact it had on him when he put that into his system every single day when he hadn't been doing that, and just how bad it truly was. And you'll see why he ended up doing that negativity experiment. But it was super interesting, and it was because of that chapter I shut off the national news. When I heard that, I stopped watching the national news. You can ask my wife. I have not watched the national news for over a month now. I just won't. I refuse to watch the national news. There's no good that can come from it. I already know what's going on with COVID-19. I don't need to know the numbers to know that I'm staying at home, right? I don't need to know the numbers to know that I'm staying at home. I know that we're all staying at home. So for the time we're social distancing, now we're kind of coming back to normal, but I already work from home anyway. So I already know that. So at this point, I'll get my information when the information's out there. I'm sure people will talk, and then I don't need to watch the national news to tell me that. I'm not even kidding you guys. It's been a game changer for my mindset the last 6 weeks to a month to 6 weeks for my life. From a mental standpoint, physical standpoint, spiritual standpoint, I can get that national news out of my head. I don't fear as much. I get to business and start being productive. I've been the most productive the last 6 weeks than I've probably been in my entire life when it comes to business, when it comes to physical health, spiritual health, mental health, everything. So that was because of this book. I love the fact that he works directly with Russell Wilson. Trevor Moawad is Russell Wilson's mental coach, and he talks about like the entire Super Bowl experience with all the media attention around, and how Russell Wilson goes through his routine of blocking that out because his thoughts outweigh their thoughts. It helps you really start thinking about how you can implement that into your life. Okay. So I encourage you to read this book because it does share that information with you. He's super, super talented. He's worked around some of the best athletes, best programs. I mean, a guy who's been around Russell Wilson, Alabama and Nick Saban for years, Florida State when they won the national championship, Georgia when they won when they went to the national championship, talking about, the experiences he's had with those guys in the locker rooms with a lot of elite athletes over the course of his days. It's insane. What I really loved about his book as well is he has a whole chapter on visualization, right? And he talks about visualization. And then because of this chapter, I actually started making statements for myself at work, right? At work. I work for ClickFunnels full time. And visualization, he does these, he talks about like the athletes that visualize, but what they do is they use neutral statements. So he says you can visualize certain situations and then use neutral statements to help you achieve them. And he gives the example of Michael Johnson, the track runner, right? You can't control the future. That's why he says, he's trying to teach you neutral thinking rather than, too positive thinking, and then obviously completely eliminate negative thinking. But neutral thinking, focus on the now, focus on what you can control at this very moment, right? Understand what happened in the past. Like if it's a negative thought that entered or whatever happened, acknowledge it for what it was. It was real. It did happen. And then focus on the now. Don't think too far in the future. So, Michael Johnson could easily get up to the line. He's ready to go and the gun's going to go off and he's going to run. He could think, oh man, I'm going to bust past this guy. I'm going to burn past him. I've prepared so well. I'm the best. I'm going to get to that finish line before everyone else. But what Michael Johnson can't control is any of the external factors, right? What if he pulls his hamstring? What if he, does a false start, whatever you call that, and he gets disqualified? Or, what if the track conditions are weird? Or what if his breathing's off? You never know, right? There's just some external factors that could happen. He very well may be the best on the track, but some things can happen and he can't control those. So he needs to focus on what he can control, which is the very, like this moment. And every time he'd get down, ready to run, he'd say, keep my head down, pump my arms, explode. I'm a bullet. Keep my head down, pump my arms, explode. I'm a bullet. He said those things over and over and over because those are the things, those are neutral statements. Keep his head down, pump his arms, explode. He's a bullet. He had prepared, right? Are you prepared? Can you execute? If you can answer those things, then make your neutral statement for yourself. I've done that for myself at work. I've done it for myself with my podcast. I've done it for myself with my marriage, with my faith. I've made neutral statements for myself, right? There's a reason why, like at work right now, we're extremely busy. Like ClickFunnels is extremely busy. Our particular department is busier than it's ever been. But at the same time, I'm actually extremely calm with it because I've made my neutral statements. We've prepared. We know that. Like we have prepared. We've been building ourselves up. And can we execute? Absolutely. We've been executing. So we've made it, like I've made a neutral statement for myself. Like this is what we're prepared to do. Just keep doing this and we're ready to go. Doesn't mean that hiccups don't occur every single day. They do. That's normal life and work. But you meet those when they come. You can't just anticipate them all the time, like come and worry about that. You focus on the now. And if those things do happen, you have the tools necessary to fix them. Okay. So it's really cool to hear his whole chapter on visualization, and it helps you actually implement that into your own life for the visualization activities. Guys, I would highly encourage you guys to read this book. It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad, How to Think Neutrally and Gain Control of Your Life. It is super, super eye-opening. I mean, I am so grateful for my man, Lee, at work. Lee is my team member and my good friend who encouraged me to read this book, and it was at the perfect time to read this book. Perfect time. I got my mindset completely all in the right direction, and I'm just grateful for him for doing that because the guy's smart. He's as smart as they come. I trust everything he advises me to do, so I'll implement that, and I'm grateful I did. Go check it out. It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. If you guys want to read the book, go buy it. If you guys want a free Audible trial to like listen to an audiobook, you can get a free 30-day trial to Audible. Just use my link, audibletrial.com/ The Game Time Guru. You can get yourself a free 30-day trial. But if you want to read the physical book, just go buy it on any Amazon, wherever, right? It takes what it takes. It's super, super good, super impactful. And guys, subscribe to my podcast because Friday, Trevor's coming on my show. We'll talk about his book a little bit more in detail, talk about his life, and you guys will get to know him. Take care.